We're down at the New York Supreme Court in Lower Manhattan at 60 Center Street today, doing some man-on-the-street interviews for Reputations in Crisis. The war in Ukraine is getting a lot of attention, of course. It's the current crisis in the world, but there's a reputation that's being gained based on some of the coverage and attention to that problem when there are other problems in the world. Here's the question. Do you believe that it is an accurate criticism that some people have that the amount of money, attention, coverage to the war in Ukraine now in our country here in the United States is not equal to some of the other atrocities that might not be warlike, but still major crises and situations that need dealing with right here at home?
I'm not educated enough to have an opinion on that.
I think so. I think there's definitely a lot of things going on around the world that don't get enough coverage.
Such as?
I don't know, honestly, because they don't get enough coverage. I don't
How
know
about
too
treatment
much
of
about
women?
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of an issue.
Across the way here earlier, totally separate from our show,
Yeah.
a protest against ICE for immigrants that is still ongoing today, and they had an additional emphasis for those, especially young people who are gay and trans and have even more struggles as being an immigrant here in the United States, that basically no one showed up to cover it.
Yeah,
Sad.
I think they could definitely use more coverage for sure.
So again, I'll come back to you. It's really not an attack on anyone that's Ukrainian or an attack on the war itself. Obviously, that's an atrocity and no one should be going towards that. The focus is from a reputation perspective, which our program is about. Is there something to be said for people that say, gosh, I wish the amount of attention that's getting now could also be on some of the other issues that are important to various sectors of society in general?
Sure, yeah.
I think to an extent, yes, but then again, this is something that's like pressing and happening right now. So I guess I understand why there's so much coverage on it, but definitely to an extent.
But those people right across the way here think that issue is very important,
Well,
and
it's
maybe
definitely important, yeah.
maybe they have
They're
a family
both
member
important.
who's going through it right now, and they
Yeah.
took their time off from work just to
Yeah.
hope that they can get some attention, and they really got none.
Yeah.
Or, as I said before, women's issues in the world. One of the issues that's tied to the Ukrainian crisis is making sure that children are getting fed, and they're trying to raise money for children with that issue. And at the same time, there was a cross issue that I saw that said, hey, what about these kids in other parts of the world too? Shouldn't we also be
It's also just as important.
not taking money away from each other? That would be wrong. They're all hungry. They all need help. But how do we choose in our mind's eye as society what's more important than something else? And is that a struggle that we have with all of these issues going on?
Yeah, I don't know, honestly.
I don't think one is more important than the other. I think they're all separate, but just as equally important.
Is it honest to say that a man might think differently than a woman on some of these issues, and an older person might think differently than a younger person?
Sure,
And
yeah.
a person from the United States might think something's more important than someone else in Europe?
Yeah.
And is that a struggle for anyone who's seeking to raise money or bring attention to a cause or a crisis?
I think it definitely could be a struggle, but unfortunately
Yeah, I
that's
can
how
see
it
that.
is. That's life, sadly.
And there's reputations tied to each of those things, right? Is this more important than that? And is this more controversial than this? And even though there might be more help needed on something that's more controversial, it might not raise as much money or awareness. The current coverage of the Ukrainian conflict and the way it's been covered thus far in the news, an A through an F, what would you grade it to date?
I really don't know. I don't know.
I
yeah,
don't really
that's,
follow
But you're
the news
watching
as
it.
much. A little bit.
Can't
yeah,
miss it, right? It's
I'm
everywhere.
watching, but honestly, not that much. Like
Yeah,
I don't really watch much news.
Is it in
to be
your
honest.
social media feeds even?
I don't have social media. Actually.
You don't?
It's
No,
in my
no.
social media feeds, yeah.
Right?
But sure, yeah.
Gold and blue you see in your mind's
Yeah.
eye
Yeah,
now.
exactly.
Support this, support
Yeah.
that. Thank you guys so
Yeah,
much
you
for your
got
time. Please follow us on their YouTube channel and listen to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify.